Hey everybody, what's going on? Death doesn't exist and may just according to quantum physics.
So this is just a recycling of the old, quantum mechanics says that reality doesn't exist without an observer nonsense, right? This has been, again, long debunked. Quantum physics, quantum mechanics does not say that. And again, I don't care what anyone believes about the afterlife or the ultimate unanswerable questions of things like that. But when you say according to quantum physics, you're making a scientific argument. You've now stepped into the arena of science. And we need to correct the record here. So this is, again, an old misconception, misinterpretation that gurus of all stripes have exploited and used to make this claim that, well, reality is just an illusion, right? It's not there when you're not looking at it, and we sort of change reality by looking at it. But that's not what quantum mechanics says. The misconception is that, yes, there is an observer effect in that if you interact with a system in order to measure it, you change the system, right? That's essentially what that's referring to. And then in quantum mechanics, there's this idea that fundamental particles exist as a probability wave, and that probability wave collapses when you observe it, But observing it doesn't mean there needs to be a conscious entity observing it. It just means that it's interacting with another particle. That's all that means. That's all that the quantum observation means. That is that it's interacting with its environment. You have to, in order to keep particles in the quantum indeterminacy state, right, in a state of a wave of probability, you have to create like these artificially pristine conditions. Sometimes that involves extremely low temperatures, for example, or vacuums or whatever. But as soon as those particles start to interact with other particles and start to do stuff, the waveform, probability collapses into a point particle, right? So these particles tend to travel like waves and interact like particles. So no observer is necessary. Consciousness is not necessary, right? The universe existed and functioned before there were any conscious entities evolved in it. And that this also, leaping from that, from a misinterpretation of quantum mechanics to all of reality is an illusion, therefore death is an illusion, or consciousness is its own thing that exists by itself. There's no justification for that whatsoever. Again, that's a complete logical leap based upon a false premise. It's just not true. Most of the rest of the video is spent talking about near-death experiences, as if that somehow is evidence for or justifies the incorrect quantum mechanical claims. And this is something I've discussed elsewhere, and just to give you the quick overview, there's no evidence that near-death experiences are anything other than brain experiences. This is things that your brain does when it's deprived of oxygen or is in the process of dying, etc., under extreme stress. But there have, in fact, been studies trying to say, answer this question: can we document any phenomenon that is outside the body or cannot be explained as brain activity? And the answer so far has been no. They could not identify anything that could not be simply explained by brain activity. First of all, the near-death experience reports are based on people's memory. They're based on memory that they have after the alleged experience took place, right? This is when they've recovered from having CPR, having their heart stop or whatever. That takes a long time, and the brain doesn't just wake up instantly, right? It passes through a lot of stages of recovery, through foggy delirium and consciousness before the person becomes fully awake and able to communicate and remember their experiences. We have no idea when those memories formed, right? There's no evidence that they necessarily formed during the near-death experience, during the period of time when their heart was stopped. And therefore, you can't say that memories were forming when there was no brain activity or no heart activity. And again, attempts at proving that that's when the memories formed have failed. So right now, the simplest explanation for near-death experiences are It's a brain phenomenon. Those are just brain experiences. That's it. Not evidence for life after death, not evidence for any kind of quantum consciousness or whatever you want to say. But again, getting back to the first point here, it's important to realize, do not believe anything based upon, well, quantum mechanics says, and then refers to consciousness or an observer or anything. It's simply not true. That's not what quantum mechanics says. Those are gurus misinterpreting what quantum mechanics says. You shouldn't buy it.